Welcome back programmers. In the previous video we learned what is TensorFlow, why we use TensorFlow, what is session and so on so. In the today's section we are gonna move on. Previous video link is in the description, check out now. So let's start with the variables. TensorFlow has a variable nodes to which can hold variables data. They are mainly used to hold and update parameters of training mode. Variables are in-memory buffers containing tensors. They must be explicitly initialized and can be saved to disk during and after training. You can later restore saved value to exercise or analyze the models. An important difference to note between a constant and variable is a constant value is stored in the graph and its value is replicated wherever the graph is loaded. A variable is stored separately and may live on parameter server. Now what is training section? We are gonna learn more about training section in the later video. But remember, variables are in-memory buffers containing the tensor and they must be explicitly initialized, can be saved to disk during and after training. So let's use this variable. So let's create a node equal to tf.variable. Now you must initialize the value, but let's try to run this. As you can see, we got the error, initialize value must be specified. So let's initialize the value. So you can add any value you want. I'm gonna put numpy 0 array. Now if you don't know what is numpy, how to use numpy, check out my numpy series now, link is in the description. So I'm gonna use np.zeros. I'm gonna create a 3-dimensional array, so I'm gonna pass 1, 1 and 1. Oops, we have to pass it in list. So as you can see, I just created the node, or you can say variable, using the tf.variable and np.zeros. Because this is the zeros, as you can see, I got the 0 in the 3-dimensional shape. And the type of node is tensorflow.python.oops.resource variable oops.resource variable. Now if you want to use this variable, or you can say train this variable, you must use the variable initializer. In this case we are going to use the common one, which is the global variable initializer. So this is our data, or you can say variable. Whatever data is, we are gonna store it in variables, and then we are gonna train that data with the global variable initializer, so we can initialize that particular data. So first run the global variable initializer from compat.v1. It's done. That's what global variable initializer was. Now we can use whatever variable we created in here only after initialize the variable. So let's run our node. So as you can see, I am assigning this node variable to increment particular value with 2. So let's run this. As you can see, we got 4. Why 4? Whenever we run this, it is gonna increment, as you can see, because I tried to run this assign incremented 2 before, and that's why it started from 2. If you run this, it will start from 0. So that's how you can train the variable. As you can see, whenever I'm running this, it is incrementing plus 2, or you can try into 2, multiplication 2, whatever operation you want to do. This is just an example how global variable initializer and variable works. So let's use the for loop of 100 and print this node.assign node into 2 again. As you can see, we got our trained data. Every time for loop is run, we are getting the multiplication of that particular value by 2. Now as I said before, TensorFlow has a variable nodes to which can hold variable data. They are mainly used to hold and update parameters of a training model. Variables are in-memory buffer. Variables are in-memory buffers containing the tensors. They must be explicitly initialized and can be saved to disk during and after training. And you can later restore saved value to exercise or analyze the model. So basically in this area we just created the variable, empty variable. Then we fill that empty variable with the values np.zeros. You can add any value in here you want. I just use the np.zeros. To initialize the variable node in current session scope, we use the global variable initializer. In the later video, we are gonna see deep into global variable initializer and how to train a data. But this was just an example. We split the data into two parts, training section, and we compare that half data with half left data. It means we compare trained data and half left data. Okay, so let's move on. Placeholders. A graph can be parameterized to accept external inputs known as placeholders. A placeholder is a promise to provide a value later. This is very important. Please listen to this. A graph can be parameterized to accept the external inputs known as placeholders. A placeholder is a promise to provide a value later. While evaluating the graph involving placeholders nodes, a feed-dict parameters is passed to the session's run method to specify tensor that provides constant values to these placeholders. It means nothing but the variables which we can add or define value later. Whenever we train data, we use these placeholders. So let's try to use this in our code. You can use tf.placeholder to use this placeholder. As you can see, compat.v1.placeholder. But if you are creating placeholders, you must define its data type. Let's try to run this. As you can see, we got error, placeholder missing one required positional argument data type. You can use any data type you want. I'm gonna use np.integer32. Now in TensorFlow 1x, placeholders are created and meant to be fed with actual values when a tf.session is initialized. However, from TensorFlow 2 onward, eager execution has been enabled by default. So the notion of a placeholder does not make sense as operations are computed immediately rather than being deferred with the old paradigm. So you can use this session because of the eager execution. If you don't know what is eager execution, check out my first video of Tensor. Link is in the description. You have to disable eager execution with the tf.compat.v1 disable eager execution. And as you can see, it will work perfectly. Now as you can see, I created two variables a and b, two placeholders with the integer 32 data types. So now I can use this a and b. And to use that a and b, I use this session compat.v1.session, and because I disable the eager execution, I can run this session. But if you aren't disabling this eager execution, you can't run this session. Now I'm gonna use this simple sum function. So s equal to sum, or you can use the matmul function. Whatever operation you want to do, you can do this. So as you can see, I use the matmul function and pass the a and b, which is not a common variable because I passed the placeholder in here and I just passed the integer 32. I didn't pass any values. So now whenever I run this C, I must pass the value. So I can do like this: feed-dict equal to a gem 321 and b gem 123. So in simple way, I created a dictionary and passed the a and b value. Now because I passed the 3-level list, or you can say third dimension list, or you can say array, so I must write it in here Because I use the 3 gem 1 in here 3 comma 1, so I must pass the shape equal to 3 comma 1, and in here I use the 1 comma 3, so shape equal to 1 comma 3. So as you can see, we got this output. This is the multiplication of 3 2 1 and 1 2 3. This is the matmul function, you can use it too. So I just created the placeholder variable. I didn't pass any value before, I just used the operation, and then in the last, whenever I am running this session, I pass that particular value a and b in here. So that was the placeholder. In a simple way, a placeholder is a promise to provide a value later. So as you can see in this picture, this is the initialization section, and this is the section after I run that particular session. So as you can see, it takes value after operation completed. So that is it for today's guys. In the today's section we learned what is variable, what is global variable, initializer. There are lots of initializers, but in the today's section we use the common one, which is the global variable initializer. In future we are gonna see more about this, but in the today's section we learned variables, global variable initializer, placeholders, and how placeholder works. So that is it for today's guys. In the next video we are gonna move on to the TensorFlow. Till then, just watch my other episode of TensorFlow. See you guys in the next video. Till then, just learn.